Why hello my lovelies. Today we are going to be talking about more real ghost stories. So this one is one that I'm surprised maybe I didn't start with because it definitely was one of the more traumatic experiences in my life. But I'm doing it now and that's all that matters. So this is my Ouija board experience. Dun dun dun! Right? Hold the phone on that. Good Lord. Ouija boards. Okay, so basically my family always told me don't use a Ouija board. Ouija boards are bad. And I had several ghost stories from my family to pre-warn me not to use a Ouija board. So I was a little kid when I was told these stories, so if I mess up or I get some of it wrong, maybe like I'm sorry, mom, dad, grandma. But from the best of my recollection, I'm going to tell you the warning stories that they told me. So I grew up in a Christian household, and my mom had us live with my great-grandparents for a short amount of time. So there was no BS. They were Pentecostal, and some of their family ended up turning into Mennonites. So there was no messing around. There was no talking about ghosts or anything like that. It was either a demon or an angel. There was no such thing as like ghosts and all of that. If you were talking about a ghost or anything like that, it had to be a demon. It's like there's no way around it. It has to be a demon. So my mom told me a story about when she was a little girl and she was invited to a sleepover with her cousin. I'm not going to say her cousin's name. My mom didn't get to do a lot of stuff, so she was really excited to get to go to the sleepover with this cousin. And like I said, this is what I can remember to the best of my recollection, what my mom told me. She got to go to the sleepover. For whatever reason, the girls had a Ouija board at the sleepover. My mom didn't play it and my cousin didn't play it, but they watched other people play it, and my cousin started making a big fuss about it, about, oh, that's bad, don't use it, you can't touch it. And the Ouija board started spelling out her name and started saying, you better watch out, and stuff like that. Well, she ends up like leaving the room, tripping and like hitting her head on something and hurting herself or something like that. So that was like the warning story that my mom told me, is that she saw the Ouija board directly warn her cousin and then her cousin get hurt. So then my dad's been known to be kind of a big fish kind of guy, so I took it with a grain of salt. He said that the Ouija board, the little planchette, actually flew up into the air and cut, I forget if he said himself or one of his brothers, on the eye or something like that, after making fun of it, after yelling it and making fun of it. My grandma, she confirms that she saw the planchette move around on her own, and I'm foggy on the details. But I think they said that they came home from church one day, because this is the different family. This is from my dad's side. So my mom's side is like super hardcore religious. My dad's side was like religious, but a little bit more open-minded. So they said that they saw the planchette actually like hovering above the board, like floating around on its own. So I'm just amazed by this. I'm just like a little kid. I don't know why. Maybe I had seen it on a video or something like that, but something really got me onto Ouija boards, and I wanted to know about Ouija boards, and I wanted to hear stories about them, and I wanted to use one, and I wanted all this. So they're telling me, no, you cannot use the Ouija board, you cannot use a Ouija board, you cannot use a Ouija board. So, being a little kid, I'm curious. I'm going to find a way to do what I want, because that's what little kids do. I remember being at school and drawing out a Ouija board and using a quarter, and playing with a friend and just like using a quarter and it like moving around. But you know, you think it's your friend thinks it's you're in the middle of class, you're not coming up with any good questions, things like that. So what could you expect from that, really? As time rolls on through the magic of high school and whatnot, I find out there are other little girls who are also interested in things like Ouija boards and telling ghost stories and all that. So I get together, it's me and two other people, and we decide we're going to go to this girl's house and we buy a Ouija board. We go to Toys R Us and we buy a Ouija board. It was either like Parkin Brothers or Milton Bradley or something like that. It glows in the dark. We take it to her house. We don't know what we're doing. We light like some scented blue candles, and there's like some whale songs going on in the background because she sleeps to whale music, so we like put that on. And I'm from the skeptical point of view. I'm the one who probably wanted it the most, but I wanted it because I needed there to be proof of life after death. I needed there to be some sort of, I needed something. I needed some proof. So I was really, really excited. We're sitting there, and my friends are on the ground. I'm sitting on the friend's bed, and they've got their hands on the planchette. I'm not touching it. Is anybody there? It circles to yes. And I'm thinking, all right, you guys are messing around. Who do you want to communicate with? It spells out Shaenna. Of course it spells out Shaenna. I'm like, okay, these girls are really playing. But let's just see. Let's see where they take this, right? So it spells out my name. We say, well, who is this? And it says, Uncle Mike. That's not cool. They don't know that I have an Uncle Mike and that he is in fact dead. I've never talked about Uncle Mike. They start asking other questions. How did you die? Cancer. That's not okay. My Uncle Mike died of cancer. He died of throat cancer, or esophagus cancer, something like that. And he didn't ever smoke or drink or do anything bad in his life. He was like the best man ever. He was like literally married his high school sweetheart, never did anything bad to anybody, went to church all the time, helped homeless people. This guy was a saint. They don't know that he died of cancer, but it's saying he died of cancer, okay? So then they're unaware of my complete terror on the inside, right? And they're still asking questions. Everything they ask it is 100% correct. Everything. They asked him questions on what he looked like. They asked different things. Then they come up with this personal question. Well, actually, I did, because I was like, all right, this is enough of this. And I say, what was your nickname for me? And it spells out Shaenna. And I say, get off of that thing. Get off of that thing right now. Say goodbye, get off of it, get off of it. And they're like, well, was it right? And I said, yes, it was 100% right. And they're like, well, what's wrong? And I'm like, my Uncle Mike would never come through a Ouija board. He was so Christian. There's no way he would come through that. He went straight to heaven. I know that that's not my uncle coming through that. So I'm shaking. We take a little break or whatever. We come back to it. I'm like sitting there and I'm like, okay, you guys put your hands back on it. I'm going to ask the questions. So I start asking the questions. What is your real name? You're not my Uncle Mike. And I get pretty tough with it. It goes to the letter Z. It circles around, and it goes back to the Z, and it circles around, and it circles around. And we're like, Z? Who's Z? So we're just little kids, and we don't know. And anyways, it becomes like a thing. We start playing with this Ouija board a couple times a week, 3-4 times a week. I end up buying my own Ouija board. I don't know how I got the money. I don't know how I snuck it in. I don't think I asked any permission. I think I just literally bought it and came home with it and didn't let anybody know. But anyway, so I'm playing with it on my own. I'm playing it with friends. Z always pops up. Z is following me. He can tell me what my friends' underwear look like, what they say written across it. It tells me all this stuff. Eventually, it tells me it's in love with me. It wants to murder me. It's in hell. At one point in time, it said that it had killed its wife and that it wanted me to join him. And then eventually I'm like, you were never alive, were you? And it was like, nope, never alive. And I'm thinking, what the heck is this? Terrified. So literally I have this thing plaguing me, for lack of a better term. I have objects scooting across my dresser. That didn't happen hella times. It literally happened one time. I had a glass dragon from Mexico that resembled kind of the Maleficent dragon, but it was just a glass dragon. But it slid all the way across my dresser with a friend at my house, and they were like, what the heck was that? And I was like, my glass thing just slid across my dresser. So I was plagued with random stuff throughout high school. I had always seen spirits, apparitions, heard things since I was a young little girl, and maybe that's why my parents didn't want me using a Ouija board. Being how kids are, you always find a way to do what your parents don't want you to do one way or another, right? So that's what I did. It wasn't until probably 6 years after all of that I decided that it all related to the Ouija board, all the negative stuff. Like, I didn't have a lot of negative ghost stuff, but I've always had ghost stuff. But I would like try to go to sleep at night and I would hear like paper crunching, like something was walking on paper or crunching paper, and my room was clean. You know, the little handles on my dresser would wiggle and this and that. And it got to the point where I was used to stuff sitting on my bed. I was used to stuff touching my ankles. I was just used to it. Finally, one day, I decided it all is about the Ouija board. I have to get rid of this thing. I wasn't even using it. I hadn't used it for years. I just had it. One day I took it and I very gently placed it in the recycling trash can nicely because I figured I didn't want to piss it off. I heard don't try to burn them. I heard don't, cover it in salt or whatever. So I didn't know what to do. So that was the best thing that I knew how to do, was just nicely, respectively say, okay, sorry, thank you, and put it in the trash. It's somebody else's problem now. But past Shaenna isn't mad at future Shaenna for putting it in the trash, because I had to get it out of my life. Did I notice a lack of activity after that? Yes and no. Like I said, even way before I ever experienced anything with those or used those at all, I was always having activity, so it's not like it went away 100%, but you could definitely tell when that particular spirit or whatever it was around, and I do feel like it left. Now, through the magic of the internet, and my favorite place to listen to ghost stories is realghoststoriesonline.com with Tony and Jenny Brewski. They're also paranormal podcasts is also through them. I've heard people talk about Ouija board stories, and there's this spirit or demon named Zuzu or Zozo or something like that, and I believe that's what came through the Ouija board with me, because it would go to Z every time and circle around, and then go back to Z and circle around. And I didn't take the circles as O's at the moment, but I do believe that that's what that was. And I'm glad that it's not here anymore, and hopefully it can stay away. So that is my creepy Ouija board experience. Don't play with Ouija board, kids. They're dangerous. They're not just a game. That's my warning, and I hope you guys have a great day and a happy Halloween coming up. Love you all. Bye.